So let's go ahead and get started with the roll call.
Excellent. So Jim Zarski.
Here.
Stephen Sane.
Sure.
Becky Ho.
Here.
Eileen Flynn.
Here.
Lisa Skumatz. Essie Snow.
Here.
Jonathan Koffler.
Here.
Thank you. Caitlin Stafford. And Mike Henshin.
Here.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Does anyone have any suggested amendments to the agenda?
Can you just scroll down it real quick? Yes, or Karen?
I don't have any changes, but some of you heard and then some of you logged on later. I will be logging off at 6 o'clock. So if you guys have any questions for me, just make sure to ask before 6.
I think the only thing I wanted to suggest, either it's tonight or the next meeting, is, I know we've talked about this in the past, is the whole reducing common area grass, and also the wasted water we see running down Rock Creek Parkway after the sprinklers run. Of course, now we're right into that season right now, so of course it's back on the forefront of our brains. So I didn't know if that was something we could add to the agenda tonight, or what. I'm open to your feedback on thoughts on doing that.
If I'm remembering from the board level, there was interest in having you guys take action and come up with some type of proposal, plan, or recommendation. But to base it off of first getting a presentation from I'm forgetting the name of the group, but I believe they sent some material maybe 5-6 months ago, and maybe Ezzy, you maybe sat in on a presentation with them. I can't remember the name of the group, but I think the idea was to at least at the board level to kick it back to you guys and for you to come back with some type of recommendation.
That's for the common areas, the grass problem? Or, I mean, the sprinklers is something different, right?
Yeah, it's two different topics. Yeah, Stefan, get you up to speed. We talked about trying to find what the overall theme is, to reduce water usage.
Yeah, sure.
So one big picture thing is that, we have a lot of grass in Superior, and I'm not even talking the native grass, I'm talking grass. And there's a lot of what I would call, areas of grass, or what we would call that really don't need to be grass. I mean, our point is not to remove areas that kids play on, families picnic, but like a good section of grass, an example is that grass along McCaslin, just south of Colton, back behind all those houses. It's grass, it's water, but I don't see people playing back there. It's just trees along that fence and some grass. And then another big one for safety reasons is the grass along the medians up Rock Creek Parkway. And then,
yeah, that's what I was sort of thinking about, right?
Yeah, but I don't mean to turn this recommendation into the discussion right now, but if we want to add that to discussion, we could fill in Stefan and the others more later.
I guess I was just thinking, the grass is one discussion, but I didn't know if that was sort of different from the sprinkler issue. I mean, that's a conversation with Vargas, right?
Correct.
I mean, those sort of seem like two different things.
They're two different things, but related because of water efficiency.
Yeah.
But yeah, having better control of the sprinkler controls, aiming of the sprinkler heads, and run time to where you don't have standing water on the grass running down the streets.
I know in the past we have had Vargas come in and talk to us about the sprinkler topic at least, and their basic stance has been that there's a certain amount of overflow needed in order to make sure you're effectively watering all the grass. And so I'd be more than happy to open up that discussion again and maybe bring them back. But I think it'd be helpful to have some specific examples or suggestions for improvement, just given their previous feedback. And with regards to grass, I'd be happy to chat about that tonight, or we can wait till next time. I remember the group that Ken's talking about, but I don't remember their name, and so I'd be happy to follow up with on the board. And Karen, do you have additional
Yep.
feedback on that?
Yeah, so that group was Duraroot, and I can definitely
right.
reach out. Yeah, I can definitely reach out to them and have them come and do a presentation to the, entire group, and then we can move from there.
Karen, how do you spell that? Duraroot?
Duraroot, D-U-R-A.
Okay, got it.
Yeah,
Okay,
root.
thank
Thank
you.
you for seeing that message about taking notes.
Oh, thanks.
But yeah, so I could reach out to them, and if that's something we wanted to add to the June agenda, we can go ahead and do that. Or if it's something that you want to discuss tonight with expectations for their presentation, we can do that as well. We would just need to go ahead and add that onto the agenda.
Why don't we just go ahead and add it? Do we need a vote to add it, or can you just add it?
No, we do have to vote. We have to have 2 or more members approve it.
Okay.
And just
Is that
so
the grass
everyone
issue or
knows,
the grass issue or the sprinkler issue, or both we're going to add?
My thoughts were both, but
You want to add both? Okay.
we can vote on that.
Okay.
I can propose a motion to add both the sprinkler item and the grass topic to our agenda. Probably, is it something that we would want Ken on for as well, or should we add that towards the end of the agenda after Ken leaves?
I'm not sure I have anything additional beyond what I just said that I could add to the conversation.
Okay.
So-
So maybe,
Second the motion.
sorry, yeah, to add those two, it'll be discussion item 4F, I guess.
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
All right, motion passes.
I would like to call out 6B, the town sustainability goals. I think that conversation would benefit from having Ken here. So if we could do that before he leaves.
Sure, that sounds great. Any other proposed suggested amendments to the agenda?
Yeah, we had mentioned last time, talking briefly about the landscaping contracts, which I don't see on here. So I think we can have just a brief discussion.
Sure, that sounds good.
If there's no objection, I can make the motion. Okay. Right. I would move that we add a discussion of the town's landscape contracts to the agenda.
Motion seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, sounds good. Any final amendments to the agenda that we want to discuss? Okay. Well, with that, we can move on to public comment. I don't believe there's anyone else.
Yep, I don't have anyone else on.
Okay, cool. I was just scrolling through a list of participants. All right, so with that, we can jump to the new business and updates. I don't know if there's a whole lot of updates on the green business program since Caitlin's out. Does anyone else have any updates that they want to share on that? I know Lisa's out, so I don't know if there are any updates for the wastewater grant either, or for Partners in Energy.
I'm what? Out? Up?
Oh, we thought you weren't.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you there. Hi, Lisa.
Aye.
My apologies.
It's all right. I have a screen share. I cannot screen share while the other person. Okay. I do have a couple of graphs or something, but it's nothing urgent. I can just tell you about it if you'd rather. I'll just tell you, we've been going out and using clickers and seeing how many people set out trash and recycling and on a weekly basis throughout this project to see if people change their at least frequency of set outs or number of containers or ratio of recycling to trash or any of that sort of stuff. over the period, and we really haven't noticed a lot of change at this point. And we're doing it for the 2 test routes and for the control route. We're going to have a really interesting set of data at the end of all of this, I think, with energy use and recycling behavior, and potentially, got my fingers crossed there, Karen, water usage over a period sort of from before COVID, during COVID, and trailing, slightly opening from COVID or whatever. It's going to be pretty interesting, and thank God we have a control group, or it'd all be out the window. It'd be a mess. So thank goodness for that. We have sent out information and received people's, a few people that go to the website and sort of answer the questions about the information. We were hoping for more, but it's the energy kits just aren't really drawing them to say, oh my God, I've got to have one of those. I think next time we have to say, and it has a solar charger for your cell phone in that kit, because nobody cares about LEDs much anymore or anything, it seems like, but I think that might help. We have been so we have sent out stuff about recycling and about water. Then we reached a little bit of a delay while we provided information on energy to Excel. They all volunteered to possibly do the flyer, so take a little bit of cost out of my bucket, which is a good thing. And we just got that finalized yesterday or today. So it'll be prettier. It's not a postcard, it's a flyer that's 3-folded, and give people tips on behavior changes. The next batch is do-it-yourself stuff around the house, and the last batch is the stuff that Excel really cares about, which is their programs and getting people to participate in the programs. They're in a weird position as well, because right now with COVID, some of their programs aren't actually active or not very active. So it's all being kind of strange. So anyway, so that test is people are just asked to commit. And so we've got a little survey that people can commit to doing some of these actions over a time period. Other than that, I'd say what we're going to be doing after that is we'll do a final sort of big survey about did you change your behaviors and all that sort of jazz. See what effect, do they recall any of the outreach materials that we sent, and what are some of the tips they recall, to just look at how well it behaves, and then try to figure out therefore which things and which things did you do, and see which things are most popular and whether we had any effect. The PIE grant then wants us to go more whole hog into sort of the energy plan strategies. And I think you saw that they're like, for pretty simple strategies, they have like 3 pages of paperwork about it. It's kind of, I get the feeling that there are a lot of people there with time on their hands, process people. But in any case, so then we'll be coming back to the committee for more stuff on those strategies and which things we want to promote and how and that sort of stuff. So in probably next month or the month after that, we'll have bigger involvement in that process. That's my update.
Thanks so much, Lisa, and apologies again for missing you on the attendee list. We appreciate the updates.
I joined a little late.
No worries. Carol, would you like to provide some updates on the WaterWise seminar and/or the Garden in a Box program?
Sure, yeah. So as everyone knows, the WaterWise seminar was right at the beginning of April when all of the COVID stuff started. And so we did switch that over to an online platform via Resource Central. I received a message from Devin Booth at Resource Central that we actually had 25 attendees to that seminar. And I believe there's also a link to the recording if anyone was ever interested in going back and watching what was presented during that recording. So you can go check that out on the Resource Central website. So I thought that was pretty good. Since we were like right at the beginning of the month when everything changed and it was switched over pretty quickly, and we didn't get out too much advertising about the switchover. So I felt like that was really good. And then as far as Garden in a Box, that's also through Resource Central, and Devin sent me an update on that. And we actually sold 67% of our gardens this year. So we had 48 slated and we sold 32. which when I looked back at previous years is actually the highest that we've done in the last few years. So that was also pretty exciting. They, on April 27th, actually sold out of all Garden in a Box gardens. So they do not have any more that they're selling. Anyone who purchased one, they received a emergency response grant in order to ship all of the gardens directly to people's homes who purchased them. So there's no contact. They'll just be shipped directly to their homes, which I thought was quite excellent as well. So that's pretty much the update on that.
Thanks. Is there a way, Karen, to jump straight into the town sustainability goals for the discussion? I just want to make sure we have enough time for.
Yep, I made note of that. So I'll just go ahead and make that change when I post the notes and everything. So we can move that directly to the next item.
Perfect, thanks. Let's go ahead and jump straight into that topic. Mike, did you have information you wanted to share, or do you want to lead off that discussion?
I do, and I have a question. But so just to recall what we said last time, which was 2 months ago, that we've said many times that we want the town to establish more specific goals. We talked briefly last time about what some of them could be, and I have my notes here. I said I would write them out in more detailed language, which I have not done, but I can still do. But there were some specific goals around air quality and the ozone pollution, greenhouse gas reductions, in line with the Paris agreements, the percent recoverables in the waste stream as a waste metric that we could improve. And then there was SE had suggested one about electrification of buildings. Lisa had identified the partners in the energy goals. So we had a long list. Yeah, those are the main ones. But then there were a couple additional ones Ken referred to from a prior town board retreat about town facilities being all renewable. And then I had noticed in one of the board meetings over the last 2 months that it was on the board agenda to discuss some goals, but I did not watch the recording. So I'd love to hear from Ken or someone who is present an update on if the board's discussion on those goals from the board meeting.
Yeah, so that was part of our last retreat, which probably about a month or so ago now. So this was the second retreat in a row where we've talked about it, and there hadn't been a whole lot of movement. I think between, well, actually there was a new report put out, and I apologize, I've had a blip in my Microsoft Office subscription with the town, so I can't access any of my notes. But there was an audit of some sort that was completed to help identify what our current electric usage is right now, and that was going to help us set a baseline. But I believe the guidance that was given from the board at that meeting is that there's general interest to move forward to moving the town to all sustainable sources of electricity, but we needed to get a little bit more clarification still on what is a realistic time frame and how do we actually make that happen. So there wasn't any specific goal set, but just continued guidance to town staff to continue to work towards identifying how we do that. Karen, did you hear anything else or know anything else about that I didn't mention?
I didn't. That's exactly what I know.
Yeah, and Ken or Karen, do you recall if that discussion was in the context of all the town facilities, energy use, electricity use, or the community as a whole?
Just the town, not the community as a whole. The town's own facilities.
Okay. Okay, great. So
Again,
my takeaway is that it's fair to say that, so that maybe there's some more coordination with staff who may have looked into it in more detail, but it's fair to say that a specific goal that's on the table, or at least up for discussion, is for the town's own electricity usage to be all renewable by a date to be established.
Hey, does the sports stable consider the towns?
No.
Okay, all right.
And I just pulled up the agenda from that meeting, and the topic was environmental sustainability goals. Part 1 was get town buildings / properties powered 100% by renewables by 2022. B, community solar array, consider a community solar array, and C, meet all of Superior's municipal electric needs with 100% carbon-free sources by 2025. So that was what was put out there for discussion, and then it was just, in general, we have no idea if those are good goals to be shooting for from a reality standpoint, and let's figure that out. The attachment that I was referring to was a 2020 energy baseline audit. There's some good information there. Once I get my town account reestablished, I can send it out to the group.
Yeah.
I mean, the next step and I've seen this done by other communities around the Front Range, is the town would need to probably look into having a solar feasibility study done, a PV study. And that's where you kind of take it to the next level of, what's currently powered by PV, what is your current utility usage, how much PV do you need to offset the remainder that's not powered by PV, and then some cost information. And I know the city of Longmont is doing that. Aurora just did that. And I think so there's some other towns that are kind of doing PV feasibility studies. So that involved hiring a consultant to do something like that.
I imagine is probably the direction that we were going anyway. Karen, do you have have you been given any guidance or have any idea? Okay.
I haven't, but I do know that has been discussed. And Emily Clapper, who is the management analyst over at Town Hall, she works under Martin. I know that she has sent me quite a bit of communication regarding different solar projects. And so I can go back and look at that communication and send anything out to the group that might be necessary.
I think that would be helpful context. I also think like a potential way to meet these goals, at least goals number A and C, around meeting town facility or community-wide electricity usage with renewables. A potential way to do it would be to like make a deal with Excel, basically for them to do it for us. And obviously Boulder set a similar goal and then decided they were going to go all the way by making their own utility, which I don't believe is a good option for our community. But along the way, the option has certainly come up from the Excel side that instead of Boulder going and making its own utility, Excel could just give them clean energy through some type of individual arrangement. And so I wonder if opening that dialogue with Excel, or at least understanding what the options are from their point of view, would be valuable.
You do that through the Partners Energy program as well, since we have contacts in that way. I know Excel also has the Renewable Connect program, which I believe is currently full, but essentially it provides a way for different types of customers, both residential and commercial and municipal, I believe, to buy into a solar array or a wind farm and basically offset all of their energy use with clean renewable energy, while also helping to support those construction of those facilities directly. And so it's not quite an offset program, it's more constructive than that. And so if they're looking at expanding that, maybe that could be a potential option to consider as well.
Do we know right now if it is all electric or is it also gas?
The goal, you mean?
No, well, the city is the city using both, or is it only using electric? I mean, I have no idea, right? I mean, it sounds like all this would address the electric, but not the gas.
I think that's accurate.
Yeah, I think so as well.
And gas is pretty common for heating, both water and space heating. So I expect that the town's using some gas too. And so maybe there's a electrification component in there while
That's
also
good.
shifting over to, yeah,
Yeah, that's what I was. That's what I was guessing too, right?
yeah, that's a great point.
Well, you know, I think a big opportunity there would be the pools, is I'm sure they have natural gas boilers to heat the pools. And I know solar heating options for pools are pretty solid. You know, like they can easily offset, especially with all the sun we get. You need to use those if the town's overall goals to reduce greenhouse gas emissions.
Mm-hmm. Those all good points.
Yeah.
So Ken, I know you need to hop off, but I want to ask, what's the next sort of best step for the committee? Do you think it's something where the town board needs to reach out to some consultants, or are there specific things we can do before that happens to provide recommendations, or what would you sort of see as the next best steps we should do?
So any type of solid goals that you guys can come up with, or any type of recommendations as far as measurement of for how we can continue to track our movement in the direction of sustainability, I think is welcome. I think what we need, I don't know exactly what town staff is doing based off the results of our last retreat. So without knowing what town staff is doing, I don't know exactly if you guys should be sitting tight and waiting if there's consultants being hired so we can hear results from consultants, or I don't know the answers to those questions. So maybe Karen, that's something we can follow up on.
Yes, I can definitely do that.
Perfect.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if it's Lisa and Essie who are in touch with Excel and Partners in Energy, if there's just a light touch, the way to ask the question of what solutions I think Excel could provide. If the town's goal were 100% renewable electricity, either for town facilities or community wide, what are the options Excel could offer to satisfy
Offer
the
for
goal?
tracking? Do you mean offer for tracking? We'll definitely find out. They provide, at the beginning of our project, they provided community-wide data on consumption per premise and that sort of thing. So if that's something we could possibly get them to commit to on an ongoing basis, that's something we could put in the model.
Well,
Well,
they
I think
they
this
already make that data public. I was thinking more that like it would be a custom agreement basically, where Excel would, well, if it's just town facilities, like maybe the town can just
Oh,
buy
town.
from,
I
the
see.
town could just buy from the wind source program or something
I
like
thought
that.
you meant town. You meant town. Got it. Okay.
Well, it could be either. I mean, if it's just town facilities, you could just buy from wind source or something. Maybe that would meet the need. If it's the entire community, then Excel would have to like develop some custom offering to us and
Sure, we have
say,
a call coming up with them. We can,
yeah, I'm just suggesting floating the
Yeah.
topic and just understanding because I'm not
A
even.
great- great idea.
Mhm.
It also sounded like the city of Boulder is working with them on an alternative to the municipalization, right? Does anybody know what that entailed? I just saw something in the camera about it, like working
Time.
more closely with Excel.
About time.
They're working on multiple different options simultaneously, and they have been since the beginning. But I think now there's, my sense is that there's more realization that probably having a partnership option may be preferable to fully municipalizing.
Well, I think there was a lawsuit, in El Paso, that sort of went the wrong way for municipalization.
Yeah, there's been a whole lot of different developments.
Yeah, I was just curious if anybody knew if there were any details out there on what that would be.
Yeah, I don't know fully. I've heard little bits and pieces, but I don't know exactly what that would look like.
I'm happy to shoot an email to someone in the City of Boulder Sustainability Office who's probably working on this, I suspect, and just see what they're up to, if we can learn anything from it.
All right, guys, I'm gonna hop off. Have a great night. Nice seeing you guys.
Thanks so much, Ken.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it sounds like probably next steps for our group would be to consider what the town discussed and then potentially make some recommendations maybe next meeting about specific either additional goals or sort of refinements of those goals that they should consider. Mike, does that sound like a good approach to you?
Yeah, sounds
Okay.
good. I will try to bump up on my to-do list to draft. It'll just be the same ones I rattled off a minute ago, but I'll just like put them in writing and circulate them, and we can discuss which ones we want and which ones we don't, or if there's other ones.
Cool. Yeah, I think the Renewable Connect program again might be even better than WindSource because it involves some actual investment in the actual infrastructure versus just signing on for essentially offsets. So.
My experience with municipalities is they like to show that they have PV powering their facilities. And I know WindSource could potentially offset the greenhouse goal, but my experience working with towns around the state, they love to have those big PV panels sitting up on their town facilities. It makes a big statement as well. So it might be a solution, many solutions to this answer, I guess, a mixture of different things coming together.
Yeah, that's a great point. And personally, I'd love to see us pursue more community solar options, but obviously there's a lot of considerations there with regards to land and everything else.
Well, we can tear out the grass and put PV panels on it.
There you go.
With one stone.
All right. Any additional comments on the goals for now? Okay. Well, I think with that, we can jump down to the waste contract and residential composting options topic. I know that's something we've talked about before, and unfortunately, I can't remember exactly what the follow-up was from last time we talked about this, but does anyone have anything in particular that they want to bring up or discuss with regards to this
Well,
topic?
did the survey go out, and is it available? Have any people responded to it, or?
Yep.
And then,
So
and then what's
go
the date?
ahead.
And then what's the date that the RFP was expected to go out?
So as far as the first question goes, I do know that the survey has gone out, and I have seen 2 or 3 responses so far. I just think it went out at the middle to end of last week, though. So I've seen 2 or 3 different responses come through, and I do get regular updates on those responses.
We better
so
all respond, right?
So I can keep you updated on that. And then as far as the second question, when is the RFP going, I believe Martin sent an email that they were trying to keep that on track as far as the second meeting in June. But I can double check on that and let you know.
And have we seen that RFP, or can we see that RFP?
And maybe that's actually
Or at least
our meeting in June. I believe he brings that to us.
Okay.
And I'll double check on that process.
Because I think it'll be a little hard to edit on the fly, but I think we can do it. I mean, but I think we want to look to make sure that they're encouraging responses on at least showing us how much organics would cost and things like that. So I hope there are options in there for that. So.
Yep. And Martin's leading that project, and he's in communication with me. So I know that I know that they're really preoccupied with all the COVID-19 stuff right now. But I know that he has sent me an email that says that he is still, keeping that in the loop. So as soon as he has something for me or you guys, he also just goes ahead and sends emails to that ACES email address. So we'll all pretty much know at the same time. But if there is something that I get, I'll make sure that you guys all get that too.
Well, and also if he's, even if he hasn't written the RFP, if it's not like super secret or something, if he could send us an email with bullets of what he's planning to ask them to offer or to respond to in terms of like trash weekly and, something else, whatever, recycling, whatever, maybe we could at least see that and see where he's headed in terms of no changes, what's he thinking?
Right. Yep.
So we can react to that. It might be an easier way for us to react than a big, hairy RFP.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree with you, Lisa. Like, I think the pricing just kind of based off the tone of the survey needs to be more menu style pricing, not one number to provide trash services for the next 5 years. So it needs to be,
I'm a big fan of pay as you throw, no doubt about it.
yeah. No, I'd be interested in looking at that too if we can.
Cool. So it sounds like we'll wait until the next meeting to get more updates on that and then take it from there.
Okay.
All right. So I think with that, we can move on to the discussion of promotion opportunities for water audits and smart irrigation controllers. And I think in the past, we've just talked about making sure that it's included in the town newsletter, and then also that we're going in and posting on social media, with Facebook and Nextdoor and those types of things. So I guess first I wanted to see if anyone had any other thoughts or suggestions, and then we can also see if anyone wants to volunteer to make some posts on any one of those channels.
Yeah, and just so you know, I have seen quite a few different, Gov Delivery is our new software system that sends out our e-blasts, and I'm in there on a regular basis sending out e-blasts for the pros department, and I see that Melissa has done quite a few different standalone Resource Central advertisements for the water audits and the irrigation controllers. So I know that that's going out. If you're interested in if you guys aren't receiving those, do make sure you go to the website. I can send a link out to everyone to make sure that you sign up and get those. I do pretty much think that you all should be getting them, because I know as a committee member, we enter all of your email addresses so that, we make sure that you get all of that information. So check your spam boxes if by chance you're not getting those. But what I can do is I can forward on the actual post, and then whoever from the committee wants to get that information out to the public via the social media channels, which I'm not as a staff member a part of, then you guys can utilize that information so you don't have to create anything.
Cool, thanks. That'd be great. And I know I've seen some information on the WaterWise water audits, but I haven't seen as much for the promotion of like the rebates the town offers for different water efficiency measures, including the smart irrigation controllers. So is that something that's also been going out and I just missed it, or has that not been highlighted quite as much?
Yeah, I mean, I'll have to double check. I know that Melissa put that in there. We communicate, we have team meetings with Resource Central, and so I know that when we discussed that, that was a part of it, but I'll double check and I'll make sure.
Okay, cool, thanks. That'd be great. Is anyone interested in volunteering to go and make some social posts? I can certainly do some. I'd be happy to go on the 027.
Make some social what?
Social media posts.
Thank you. No.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not super active.
My staff totally laughs at me because I'm like, what's that? Yeah.
I'm not super active, but occasionally go on the 027, so I figure that's something I could probably do. Okay. Well, yeah, Karen, if you want to send out that information, then we'll take it from there. I think that'd be awesome. So thanks so much.
Sure.
And then can you go ahead and scroll down as well on the agenda when you get a chance?
So I think that was it that was on the agenda. We were just going to add Jim's
Sprinklers. Yeah.
And the landscaping contract.
Yeah. So
right. Both of them.
I think I have the sprinklers, the green space topic, and the landscaping contracts. So do we want to go ahead and start off with the sprinkler topic and just open up for discussion there?
Well, I guess my thought was just trying to, maybe it boils down to bringing in, whoever at the town is in charge of that landscaping contract or writing the scope of work or anything like that. I'm wondering if we should start with the town staff instead, because they'll probably be able to provide more, mutual feedback and thoughts on, guidance that can be worked into the landscape contract. Because I think unless you make it part of the landscaper's contract that their job is to proactively, you know, minimize water waste and so forth. I don't know if talking directly to Argus is going to be a good approach there, but
Well, it needs to be two parts. It needs to say they're in their contract that they have to minimize it, but then you have to have some way of enforcing that. Otherwise, it's pretty meaningless. So I would say that there need to be two parts in there.
yeah, that's a good point, Lisa. So
How are you also going to
Go ahead.
monitor? I mean, there's the enforcement. Yeah, the enforcement part. How do you monitor?
Oh, that's what I'm saying. The enforcement means you have to like have some measurement.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
That was implied. Sorry.
It's got to be more than, you know, hey, I'm walking my dogs and there's water running down the street, right? I mean, probably has to be better than that.
Yep.
I mean, they do seem to be pretty good at repairing these things, right? So, you know, I mean, every time I sort of see one that's blown off, they seem to repair it. But
Didn't we have a presentation about sprinklers in the town like about a year ago? Am I remembering that correctly?
Yes.
Yeah.
You do remember correct.
And I
Go
don't
ahead,
know,
Essie.
I don't know that we really got anywhere with that, but I don't recall if it was someone, if he worked for the town or if it was the Vargas. I don't remember. Karen, I don't know if you remember Essie or whoever else was at that.
Yeah. I believe that was someone from Vargas, if I'm remembering correctly, who talked about, or was it the city?
Yeah, it was Matt Rarick, our
that's right, okay.
pro
Yes.
superintendent.
Yes.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah, and so if I remember correctly, his basic, sorry, I have a toddler running around. His basic feedback was that, you know, Vargas and the town have been working together for a while to make things as efficient as possible. And so they have upgraded a lot of their irrigation control systems and the sprinkler heads and try to stay on top of the sprinkler head management. And they noted again that the spray patterns have to go out into the street a little bit in order to assure a full even distribution of water onto the grass in places where there is grass near the streets. And so I believe the general takeaway was that they'd been working to try and make things as efficient as possible and didn't really see that there was a whole lot of opportunity for improvements. And so I think I'm more than happy to continue this discussion. You.
I think we discussed that they had they have thousands of sprinkler heads, so it's a big job to go out and check each one.
And to the enforcement piece, it's hard because, you know, unless you have the occasional person who writes in a complaint or something, you know, they're trying to inspect everything and stay on top of that. But it's also just difficult with the current staffing levels to try to identify potential issues that way. And so I think if we want to bring them back, that'd be great to continue the discussion, and it'd be great to find some additional opportunities. But I think it'd be helpful for us to have some specific ideas of next steps they could take or specific recommendations for the town.
So and just as another little update, what also came out of that discussion, and when Matt was there, I actually met with Jim Widener he monitors the contract with Resource Central. He's in the Public Works Department. And through the management of that contract, we have the opportunity to do a citywide water and sprinkler audit. And that was started, the paperwork was started at the end of the watering season last year, but we weren't able to get the actual audit done by Resource Central. So Matt Rarick, our pros superintendent, was completing that paperwork. And then here this spring, you know, depending on how things are going, I mean, they have other focuses with everything that's going on right now, but I will put in a plug and an email to Matt and say, hey, where is this at? You know, ACES is wondering when that audit is going to take place. We will definitely get the results from that. But let me just do a little bit of poking on that and see where we're at.
And I think that, you know, thinking about what can we possibly use as a metric for them being more water efficient, you know, water usage alone, you know, if you're not weather controlling somehow, is not going to be very good. But maybe there's some base years and associated like average rainfall that year or a few things like that. at the end of the year, if we have a few years like that, we could make a little regression analysis and see what the fit is, and then say, we're looking for you to come in underneath that curve as long as, with the control of the can't be brown. So, I mean, other than that, I'm not sure exactly what we could do, and I think we could only monitor at the end of a calendar year. We could give them we could suggest putting in some kind of bonus or not bonus or whatever based on achieving that goal, or say, I don't know if we can do pass fail. But anyway, at least for a few years, there could be a bonus thing until we get the idea of how to do it better. But anyway, it's just a suggestion.
One other consideration too could be that if we talk with Root about kind of getting rid of green spaces and having more sort of naturalized plants that don't require irrigation as much, that could be an easy way to demonstrate energy savings with respect to landscaping.
Or an easy way for them to meet the goal that we established about water use, which would be
Right.
the incentive even better. So.
Yeah, I think the area, you guys can disagree with me. I think the area where it's most visible is the strips of grass along Rock Creek Parkway. That's when I'm driving up Rock Creek Parkway and see the water just kind of washing down the street there. And maybe you kill two birds with one stone by telling them, let's not focus on the thousands of sprinkler heads. Let's focus along the strip right now along Rock Creek Parkway. Or maybe that's the strip we need to focus on having the grass removed from, and then you kill two birds with one stone.
So Rock Creek Parkway, I was thinking of McCaslin, never mind. My pet peeve is those poor trees that are struggling. But anyway, never mind. McCaslin, I'm with you now, which Rock Creek Parkway.
Yeah. Stefan, I think you're muted if you're trying to talk to us.
Yeah, I figured that out. If they get rid of the grass and they're keeping the trees, there are other ways of watering, right? I mean, they could go with a drip system instead of the spray system, or maybe that's already there. I don't know.
Not my area.
I mean, I like the audit idea because you're bringing in a third party that has no connection to anything. And the problem with bringing in the irrigation guy, and even no disrespect to the town Superior guys, those guys have 1,000 things going on. They're busy, and the last thing they want to think about is more stuff to worry about. But you bring in someone who's completely neutral and third party, fresh set of eyes, then we can kind of get an impartial opinion and professional recommendation of how to deal with it.
Or having you think about change when it's not perceived by residents widespread as broken. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess we'll just wait for the audit. Is that kind of the next steps as far as the sprinklers are concerned?
Yeah. I mean, I would think that would be, the best thing to do at this point.
Can I actually maybe put in a data request? So could we maybe get information on the amount of water used by the town's sprinkler system? Is that, or the town's sprinkler meters or some such thing? Is there some amount?
I believe that's actually part of the water audit, So,
I get that, but I'm looking for something a little different. So I'm looking for annual data on that going back over time. And then I suspect somewhere online I can get amount of, maybe heating degree days and rainfall. And maybe we can see if that relationship has been going up over time, down over time, or something. So it might be a fun little exercise for me to try. So I'm just wondering if that water data is available.
If you want to send me an email, Lisa, with that
Do that.
specific request, then I can take care of that.
Thank you. I'm no expert in water, but I like running regressions, so hey.
Okay, any final thoughts on the sprinkler topic? Then I think we can move into the green space, which we've started talking about a little bit, but are there specific ideas you guys have for recommendations we can make to the board about removing some of the just, sort of unnecessary, potentially green space or, grassy areas?
Well, I think just along the lines, I know safety was a concern with the landscaper having to move their lawnmowers across Rock Creek Parkway and mow the lawn there down the middle. I think one thing I want to be very explicit about is I'm suggesting this to save water, but I'm not suggesting this to swap this out for something that's more maintenance intensive. I think we were looking for a solution that would require minimal or no maintenance actually, and no water use. Not something that's, I know we all love Xeriscape, but sometimes Xeriscape even takes maintenance too. So I just wanted to clarify that was kind of what I was thinking. I'm still a big fan of flipping the median, since a lot of people drive up and down Rock Creek Parkway, flipping some of that over to the arts committee and see what sort of decorations or decorative designs they could do with switching out the grass to colored rocks or art or sculptures sticking out of the ground. I don't know, something.
Or that crushed glass that's colored. Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's some really fun things that could be done and I think we'd all agree look better than brown spots and dandelions sticking out of the ground, and save water, safety, all the above, kill 4 or 5 birds with one stone.
And so, maybe the one potential next step could be to set up a meeting with the is it CAPS that deals with all the art stuff in the town, and see if there's some opportunities for us to collaborate there and help meet multiple goals at the same time.
Yeah.
I suspect whatever happens, this is just experience. I suspect it'll take a few years for the board to end up being the least bit comfortable with it, but there's no way that starts unless we start it. So unless we start putting real options in front of them.
Right, and that is why, I can get, I can reach out to Durroot and I can get them to come and give us, the entire group, a presentation on what they can do and where the cost savings would be and all of that kind of stuff. And then once we have all of that data, then you can put together an official recommendation based on that data. I think that's really what the town board's looking for. So if you have data to back the recommendation. So I can do that. Have them come out, give a presentation, come up with a recommendation. In the meantime, we could always send an email out to the CAPS committee, kind of see, I know they're working on the arts master plan and facilitating the projects that were put together in that master plan. And I do know that some of those exact things that you were just talking about were part of that plan. So, sending that email to them and letting them know that you're interested in collaborating on that, in order to meet both goals of both committees, I think would be another great step.
I think that'd be great. Now, remind me who Durroot is again?
Durroot is the company that actually reached out to Patrick Hammer, who was our former director, to do some different native landscaping in Superior. They specialize in that. And Essie and I actually met with them at one point, and they kind of gave the presentation.
So they are a land.
Yeah. So Essie, if you want to describe what they told us when we met with them.
Yeah. So they're a landscape consulting firm, and so I think they have a lot of great general information to share about some of the different types of benefits that you could see from moving from green spaces and grass to more native plantings. And one of the interesting things, for example, they mentioned is that if you switch to like a rock landscape, that's great for a couple of years, but eventually you start seeing weeds and stuff that come into those. Whereas if you have native plantings, that tends to block out a lot of the weeds that would otherwise take over. And so some things like that with regards to potential landscaping considerations. Also things like, if Superior want to show off that we're a bee-friendly town, there's some different groups that provide recognition for those types of things. And so some of those different types of considerations with regards to landscaping, and not necessarily just moving towards a xeric approach, but more of sort of a naturalistic approach with little to no additional irrigation needed. And so they're definitely, a company that would like to work for us and would like the town to kind of hire them to do audits and stuff. And they might be in a really good position to provide really excellent feedback on that. But that's sort of where they're coming from and some of the feedback they'd provided. And I believe they also sent us a bunch of additional information, so I can try to dig that up and see if I can find that and send that your way too, just for reference.
So they're a land consultant. They're not a landscape company?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. But yeah, they seem to be very, very knowledgeable and helpful and responsive to when we reach out for additional information. So.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and reach out to them and I'll see when they might be available. Is that something that you want on the June agenda?
That's fine with me. Just for reference, I'll probably be out next month, so I won't be present, but happy to follow up after that.
Okay, I'll double check with them and see when they're available, and we'll get them on the agenda when it's good for them.
Okay, thanks. And Jim, are you interested in reaching out to CAPS about sort of collaborations potentially with regards to art and removing grass and replacing it with different types of options?
Yeah, I can reach out to CAPS.
Okay, great, thanks.
I mean, am I inviting them to our next meeting, or are we inviting ourselves to their next meeting, or just?
I think at this point it would probably be good to just kind of feel them out email wise, get some information from them, find out where they're at. I don't know that we're at the point where we would want to get together with a meeting. I think it'd be best to kind of get information from them first and kind of see, you know, where they're at on all of that. Just my suggestion though.
To just keep the communication open-ended, do I need to CC ACES on that? Is that standard protocol?
Sure, you could do that. You could utilize both group emails, the ACES group email and the CAPS.
Cool, thanks. Yeah, I think that'll be great. And it'd be really cool to have some collaborations between different advisory groups.
Definitely.
Anything people want to discuss additionally on the green space topic? Okay. So last item that we had was the landscaping contracts.
Yeah, so in addition to what we talked about previously, an option, so the town's landscaping contract is up for renewal again, or it will go out for bid. The RFP is expected to go out by mid-October, which would get to a board approval of a selected vendor by the beginning of December. So this is the contract that Vargas currently holds. It's a 4-year contract cycle. So this contract will set the town's landscaping services for the following 4 years. And in addition to potentially recommending something around the landscaping that's covered under the contract, like we just discussed, the other option would be to ask to include something in the RFP to ask the respondents to propose options that replace gasoline-powered lawn equipment, landscaping equipment with electric landscaping equipment. The benefit of this, in addition to some benefit for, you know, climate emissions, I think the most direct benefit is for the air quality impacts, because small engine equipment contributes disproportionately to the nitrogen dioxide and volatile organic compounds and these chemicals which are precursors to ozone. And we've talked before in this group and with the board about how the entire Front Range is in violation of the safe ozone standards set by the EPA. And so, and also earlier this year, when we shared the scorecard with the board in the board meeting, I think there was both interest from board members in demonstrating an effort to improve the air quality, which is not currently safe. And someone on the board specifically raised the topic of the landscaping contracts as an opportunity to do something. So all electric commercial landscaping equipment does exist. The products are out there. I think they're not used. They're used certainly by the minority or a small number of commercial contractors. But this would be an opportunity for the town to require or encourage the use of those technologies here in town. And I think could get a lot of, obviously the question will be how much more does it cost? So that'll be the thing to balance, but I think the board could get very much behind an opportunity that would demonstrate the town is taking leadership and doing something that still feels kind of new and is ahead of our peer communities around us. So what I'd like to do, we can draft specific language in the next meeting, but what I'd like to do is be able have this committee send a recommendation to the board that that the town includes specific language in the RFP, both asking the contractors to provide different options or pricing levels for all electric or some type of transition towards all electric and against conventional. And then we would also recommend that the board, we could wait and see what the price differential is and then make a recommendation later, but we would recommend that the board try to pursue, or the town staff try to pursue, gasoline-free landscaping equipment. So that's my idea. I think love your input and discussion today, and then maybe by the next meeting we could have a specific recommendation to vote on.
Mike, do you know if, I know they have like residential grade lawnmowers, they're all electric that you can buy, but are you aware of or have seen anything at the commercial level? Basically bigger motors, bigger batteries can last longer, something that scales up to, they're not walking around with residential grade lawnmowers trying to mow big chunks of grass.
Yeah, based on some Google research, the products definitely exist. They're definitely out there. So my conclusion from Googling is that it's definitely possible. I anticipate, we'd want to encourage town staff to set up the RFP where the bidders can not only just give us two different pricing levels, but explain, give us some more information. I would guess that it's a little more of a pain for the landscaping company in some ways, you have to carry around an extra set of batteries that are charged. You have to switch them out throughout the day, or there's some other stuff that you have to do. And if you're this company, you have to figure out how you're going to keep all the batteries charged. So it's probably a bunch of new logistics to figure out for the companies, and it's probably more expensive. That would be my guess. On the flip side, the maintenance cost for the equipment should actually be a lot lower, and you don't have to buy gasoline. So I bet it's a big change logistically. It might be a pain to transition if you're the actual company, and it's probably more expensive. Those would be my guesses. So what I'd love to do is get all that information on the table and the responses to this RFP, so that we can make an informed recommendation and the town can make an informed decision.
The other benefit is noise pollution. You talked about air pollution, noise pollution reduction. One interesting thing, I don't think it'd be a major expense for the town, is charging the batteries. Would they be allowed to plug their chargers into town plugs that they pay for? Or would they somehow have to charge them? I don't know where they would charge them at. They didn't plug them into a town plug, but unless they take them back to their warehouse or wherever their equipment yard or whatever. That could be a minor logistical issue too.
I have a really off base thing so if they went to electric equipment and it was therefore quiet, silent, whatever, could they work hours that are more in the not sunny parts of the day and be better I don't know, because they could work maybe really early morning and it wouldn't be bothering anybody and they wouldn't be exposed to like this super heat that we have here in the summer. Anyway, it seems like there would be worker benefits as well from if it was quiet, not just the noise benefits to them, but maybe more flexibility in their hours to avoid icky parts of the day.
Good point.
Mike, do you know any other towns or anywhere else that is doing this?
I don't know, but also I haven't actually tried to find them. It's a good question. Maybe it's a good reason for me to like do some searching. I bet they're out there, but I don't know.
You know, there's also possibly a middle ground too, right? Where maybe the big commercial, you know, the big mowers that mow, you know, Purple Park and everything aren't electric, but they also do a lot of stuff with hedge trimmers and edgers and personal mowers, right? Places that they can't quite get. I mean, it may be that the big commercial mowers are impractical, but maybe some of these other things are not. You know, that's a different, you know what I mean? So maybe there's a middle ground there too.
Good point.
Yeah, and maybe, I mean, if our first recommendation is like for the town to include some language in the RFP, you know, maybe it's, we just try to make that flexible enough where, you know, creative packages of solutions can be proposed, and someone can say, well, and you know, right away I can replace the handheld equipment, but not the riding lawnmower, you know, or whatever they can tell us what some of the options are.
Yeah, I like that, Stefan. I don't know if there's any landscape companies that are offering that at the commercial level, especially at the Rock Creek level, but maybe, yeah, right into the RFP that every year in the contract, and so the compound itself, they have to offset 10% of their equipment electric. So they get the contract, but they have to reinvest some of that money of the contract into buying the equipment on those lines. So maybe by year 4, they're 50% electric or something like that. And I don't know, just thinking out loud. Another corollary to the RFP discussion, Mike, related to our prior discussion, is that one of the reasons of eliminating grass is that should cut costs on mowing the grass. And so I don't know if the town can write language into the RFP that they reserve the right to modify the contract in the areas that need to be landscaped or maintained if the town decides to pursue eliminating turf over the years. More of a contractual question, but something kind of related to tying this into the RFP.
I guess that also depends on what you're moving it towards, right? I mean, I even know, you know, some of the wildflower sections, right, don't require a lot of maintenance, but there's still some, you know, because they do,
Yeah.
you know, there are some things they have to do to even maintain those pieces of ground.
Well, and ironically, you know, like Wildflower Park was beautiful when they planted it, and then they had a maintenance miscommunication, and it got mowed down, and so now there are no wildflowers out there anymore because they mowed it down before they could go back to seed. And so also just making sure that, you know, we have clear, consistent communication. So if we are, you know, reducing water or maintenance or something, that's actually being implemented, not just talked about.
So there's
I guess my point is I want to sell the maintenance savings to the town on eliminating grass, and then they're locked into a 4-year contract that locks them into maintaining all this grass. You know, so.
But I mean, how much grass are we really talking about here? I mean, if you just remove, say, the medians, I mean, that's not a ton. I mean, you still have huge swaths across our parks. So, you know, hopefully, I mean, maybe it's not enough to budge the contract, but.
True. And I agree with you. It depends on what the solutions are as well. But I think they're just to be I mean, you can just have general language in there that the town reserves the right to renegotiate the price based off of, you know, reduction in, you know, areas that need to be maintained. Leave it at that. You know, maybe just need a couple sentences, but leave that to the attorney to figure that out.
So I have a couple other things on this that aren't necessarily about electricity or power or that, but I mean, one is I know that they changed some pesticides or some herbicides. I assume that's going to be part of the new contract. I mean, are there ways to sort of expand that, possibly even to fertilizers that are being used? I don't know anything sort of about how they maintain stuff. So that's an area that I think maybe we should look at too. And then I don't know, anybody know the status of the goats, right? And how that's going to impact the maintenance? I mean, it'd be great to sort of expand that, I think, right? But I don't know how it's been working here. I haven't even been out there. I assume they're out, right? Or have they been out? I thought I saw an email about that.
What's up on that, Karen?
Yeah, so it did go out. I was trying to rack my brain when you were asking that question as to whether they had started or not. Now, I know that the goats were supposed to be at Arbor Day for like a meet and greet, and we did a virtual type thing. But I'm unfortunately, I cannot tell you whether they're out or not.
No.
I do know that program is in open space areas, so it's not in landscape areas. So
Right.
You know, that could be a potential for something in the future. I don't know if this company does that. I know they do open space areas.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. I didn't know if Vargas's, you know, if that particular contract extended to those areas, right? You know, just some other things while we're talking about this.
Okay, that's good.
Can demand either electric or biological means of weed control. I think that all sounds great. Would you guys, Mike and Jim, potentially, and whoever else is interested, want to potentially draft up some different ideas, and then we can make sure it's a discussion item for the next meeting in June? We can provide an official recommendation at that time.
Yeah, I'm happy to help out there.
Cool, thanks. Cool. Well, does anyone else have any additional thoughts on that? Or I think that's all we have.
Yep. So I just had a couple things. So if you guys want to look at the calendar each month and kind of a week out before our meeting, if there are different topics, agenda items that you would like to see on the agenda, if you can shoot those to Essie and Caitlin and to myself, just so that we make sure that we get all of this stuff on there, because we do want it to be out to the public with all of those items on there, so that if someone from the public has comments or questions, then they can come to and make those during public comment. So we want to make sure that that's out, you know, at least 24 hours in advance. So if we can get those things on the agenda, that'll be the best way to do it. So if you just look at your calendars, make yourself a little note, send agenda items to Essie, Caitlin, and Karen. That would be great. And then maybe even Essie, if you want to send out an email to everyone, hey, you know, after I send you the email, you could say, hey, I'm sending Karen the agenda. Does anyone have anything that they'd like to add? So we can kind of combat that in the future. And then the only other thing, Essie or Eileen, would either one of you be able to just send me a quick recap for the weekly e-blast for tomorrow? You can send it by 10 a.m. tomorrow, if possible.
Do you want bullet points or?
It's just three to five sentences to just kind of wrap up what was discussed tonight.
I can do that.
Perfect.
Cool, thank you.
Yep, and then just feel free to shoot me those notes. What I do is I go ahead and I take the Zoom recording and then upload the notes and the recording to the town website.
Okay. Great.
That's all I have.
Well, thanks everyone. Hope you're all doing well.
I have a question for Karen.
Yeah.
So the Zoom upload that you do, does that include our photos and things, or is it just the screen share?
So the way we have it set up, that anyone who is speaking, their photo will be up.
I might slide my camera thing over in the future, guys. But anyway, okay, thanks.
All right.
Well, thanks so much, everyone. I'll see you guys.
Thanks.
Thank
Have a
you.
good weekend.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye, everybody.